Welcome to today's Ask Me Anything session, part of Startup India's MAARG Luminary Sessions. We are honored to have with us an inspiring entrepreneur whose vision and leadership has revolutionized the e-commerce logistics landscape in India. A brief introduction of our speaker today. Saahil Goel is the co-founder and CEO of Shiprocket, India's leading data-driven logistics aggregation platform, serving some of the top e-commerce and D2C brands in the country. For the benefit of the larger audience, Shiprocket was launched in 2017 and it provides digital retailers with a comprehensive customer experience platform offering various things like shipping, fulfillment, customer communication, and marketing tools. Under Saahil's leadership, Shiprocket has empowered thousands of small and medium sized businesses, transforming it into a unicorn in just 5 years. Through the session today, we will learn about Sahil's journey as an entrepreneur and his insights and learnings on building Shiprocket. Towards the end of the session, we'll also have a Q&A round with questions from the entrepreneurs and startups who have joined us for the session today. Without further ado, let's welcome Saahil Goel.
Thank you, Nazia, and pleasure to be here today.
So, Sahil, could you please take us through your early days prior to starting Shiprocket?
Yeah, sure. I used to, I was born and brought up in Delhi, and then went to high school and in Delhi itself. I did part of my college in India, and then my MBA and my master's was in the US. So I ended up spending time working in jobs in India as well as the US, and I was always very keen in technology. I was very keen in building on the internet. So I used to code and build websites quite early in my career. And then 5 years into kind of working in the insurance sector in India as well as the US, um, had this this itch to go and start something of my own, and at the same time I think was very passionate about innovating, very passionate about solving problems, and I felt that India was such a vibrant country full of small businesses that were being underserved in terms of technology. Having being from a MSME family myself, I was able to see that there was not a lot of technology being offered or built apart from like tools like Tally, maybe, right? And that's what initially prompted me to start thinking about like a open space in the sector, and that's what got us to thinking about building Rocket, which was our early venture before Shiprocket, focused on helping merchants build websites and go online.
All right. So, what I think, Sahil, you have covered almost about the inspiration behind starting this company, but was what was largely the key problem that you aim to solve through Shiprocket?
Yeah, so I think Shiprocket came like a little bit of an afterthought, Nazia. After we had done the first venture with Cartrocket, Cartrocket was aimed at basically helping merchants go online and build their website, get a payment gateway, connect, into shipping at a very basic level, and then help them kind of run the website. So it was focused on running the website, but doing that for 4 5 years into the company's career, we realized that a lot of our merchants were not actually getting held back because of the website, because they were either able to use off the shelf website solutions, right, or they were able to get a freelancer or a small agency to help them. But where they were really getting stuck was the ability to send goods, receive them, receive cash on delivery, sorry, have a easy network across India to be able to um, monitor where their goods were, communicate with their customers. I think that realization came a little bit later to us as we went through the company's journey. So I guess we found the problem in two phases. The original problem was just the sheer ability for somebody to be able to go online, and not. I mean, I'm talking like days before Amazon, etc., were live in India. So I'm talking 2012, 2013. Um, and as we went into that market, built our first product, built the first platform, got the first set of 500,000 users over the next 3 4 years. That's when we realized that the real problem, or this, getting online was a problem, but the the larger 10x problem really was in shipping, and that's kind of how we got to Shiprocket in 2015, 16, and pivoted the company. So the problem came in two phases really. One was sort of our insight, and the second one was something that we learned while working with the customer.
So basically, it started with Cart Rocket, which is further pivoted to Craftly, and finally, a more refined version of it was Ship Rocket, which is launched in 2017.
That's right.
So, how did you identify the market opportunity for Shiprocket? Like, of course, some of the insights you have already shared, but anything apart from that, which made you feel like this was probably the right direction that you were heading to?
Yeah, I think our customers started asking us. It was. I know sometimes it sounds very trivial that our customers. Most businesses have customers that ask them for things, uh, but I think it's the ability to be very close to the customers and being able to understand, like, what impact it could have. Because when we built Shiprocket, the whole direct commerce market in India was probably like maybe 2% of the total market, right? So it was a not a very large market at that time, and I think today is maybe between 15 and 20% of all of e-commerce in India. So really, kind of, there's been a explosion in that market. I think we've played a large part in growing that market as well by making shipping very accessible to a large part of India and small businesses. So I think the insight initially came from the merchants. When, like, we had all of these anecdotes through meetings and focus groups and seller events where merchants would write in saying that, look, I've got other orders that I process, and I don't have an easy way to ship them. Can I not use your platform to just ship them? And the tendency is to first kind of try and get them into the workflow that you've designed, because you have a certain point of view in your mind as you build some software. But then over time, as we started talking to more and more users, we started realizing we're trying to build this application end to end, whether it was CartRocket or Craftly, where we're imposing our model of commerce. But the reality is that commerce in India was distributed, unstructured, happening in sort of countless different ways. We had customers using WhatsApp and Facebook only to run their commerce, where their catalog maybe was a PDF, right? And links would lead to Google Forms, and that was it. Like, that was commerce. So you didn't really need the way we at least imagine commerce to be done, or people would run sort of Instagram videos. Even today, there's a way people do this commerce and put a phone number, and then folks can direct message them or WhatsApp them, and they have a team of 8 or 10 people who are punching out orders. So the real kind of unlock happened from that point, saying that, look, we think that we should build the component for commerce, which we believe is the hardest problem to solve, rather than trying to define how all of this should work, because that would then limit us to a very limited or very small part of the market, where we were trying to almost force fit a certain model, which is what the typical marketplaces do, typical website building platforms do. And I think India, the fact that it's going through and has been going through its own digitization journey, going through its own economic transformation journey, I think there is a lot of opportunity and challenge at the same time to try and innovate on what, or maybe even define, like, what is going to be the future of many of these things in India, whether it is payments or shipping or credit or marketing and so on, because it's never happened before. It's India's got its own unique diaspora, unique consumption patterns, unique kind of selling patterns. So how do you kind of make uh, India retail digitally possible? May not look like the US or China. And I think all of this is in retrospect, obviously, Nazi. I don't think at the time, we could speak so eloquently about this. At the time, it was simply merchants saying that, 10 दिन लगते हैं, बहुत ही दूर, मतलब टूटा हुआ प्रोसेस है, पैसे नहीं आते टाइम पे. So we kept thinking that इतनी प्रॉब्लम है, तो maybe that needs to be solved first. And that's kind of how we landed on Shiprocket.
Thank you for taking us through that. I think it's quite commendable, given logistics and e-commerce sector broadly is a very disfragmented sector. So, what have been the primary drivers of growth for Shiprocket? Are there any specific strategies or decisions that have significantly impacted the overall success of the startup?
I think there are a few, and one that continues to stay with us today is our almost sort of obsessive focus on this one segment of the market, right? So we obsessively focus on small businesses because we believe that the model that we've created or built works sort of at a very distinct advantage for that one segment, right, which is basically smaller businesses selling on social media, so whether it's the meta platforms or anything else, selling on their own websites, and also offline, right? So the point is that to create a platform that is aimed towards the bottom of the pyramid or the longer tail of digital commerce entrepreneurs, which are, by the way, many in India. There are probably 3 or 4 million such entrepreneurs already. And then more broadly thinking about the SMB space, which is about a third of our GDP today, and it's the largest form of employment in India. So if you think about it that way, and you take a long-term vision, if you think about a sort of 18 months to 36 months, you'll always find reasons to not go after a tough market. It's a tough market, big market, but it's a tough market. And I think for us, it was less about getting success in economics. It was more about solving the problem. So I think not shying away from hard problems because they are hard, and then really and problems can't sort of come at a cost which makes the business model unsustainable, right? Because then you haven't really solved the problem, right? That's not the way. It needs to sustain and solve the problem. And I think that is the crux of the kind of foundational thinking of the company, to say, okay, well, let's put SMBs at the center of our universe. How do they consume services? What is the form factor, the ease of use, the price at which they are going to consume these services? How can we provide them those services which are best in class at the right price, in a way that the company itself can make money and sustain and collect money and so on? And I think as long as we are, we stuck to those tenets around this business model, we found that we could keep doing this over and over again. And of course, shipping was a large part of our initial success. And then a couple of years ago, we started venturing out into saying that, well, we should start helping merchants with warehousing and storing their goods, to give them a one-day, same-day kind of delivery experience at a fraction of the cost. So what else can we do with them? And merchants said that, can you help us with capital? And we started helping them a year ago with getting access to dilution-free capital to grow their business. And more recently, we've been helping them going global as well, to really remove the friction in going cross border. So I think it's that model of saying, okay, I'm going to go after a certain kind of customer, more generically speaking, find the key sort of levers that make that customer, you know, win in their business, or make them happy with the service. Let me put it this way, in a more general speaking way, and then find a sustainable way to build that back. Uh, Many times what people end up doing is they build a product which they believe is good, and then they end up finding different customers that may want to buy that. And I think that's a very product backward. And I'm not saying it doesn't work. It works in certain markets, in consumer markets, and so on. But in our case, I think we were less married to the product itself, but we were more obsessed with the segment, which is the SMB segment, to say, look, I think this is a very large market, and if I take a 20-year view of India, it's going to get larger and larger and larger, and they are the most underserved, right? So it was an interesting challenge for us, where we felt that, look, this is a big market, and like no one's doing anything about it. And why people aren't doing anything about it is because it's the traditional models of serving large businesses just don't work for SMEs. They don't kind of, it's a different world altogether. So the best of the best in the services segment, which are vertical services, whether it is couriers or warehouses or capital and so on, they actually don't do a great job at being able to address the needs of a smaller customer. And that is precisely the main insight which runs everything at the company today.
Got it, Sahil. So, while you were building Shiprocket, what were some of these, biggest challenges that you have faced, and how did you? Can you take us through how did you navigate through them or overcome them?
See, I think having self belief is the biggest challenge that any entrepreneur faces, to be honest, because things don't work immediately, and they keep breaking at every point, and there will be many people who will talk about why it won't work, right? And so it's very easy to kind of tell yourself that maybe in this kind of a market where it's not a me too, it's not a like people like X or Y kind of a business. It's not a Facebook of India or X of India. It's not that, right? It's saying that no, this is a model that's not been done before, and you need a strong conviction to and a belief in yourself to do it. And I know it's a very tough one because many times you go down the wrong paths as well, right? Even today, like you'll because you need to have self conviction, you'll end up going down a path, and you have to be very objective both ways, when things are working and when they are not working, and try and rely a lot more on your own thesis and your own data and hypothesis proving, as opposed to kind of what is the market saying, what are people saying. So a little bit contrarian, but good thing is in the last 2 3 years I'm seeing a lot more companies like that come up in India. Is very very encouraging. I'm sure you see some of that stuff as well, which is like so unique and so innovative, coming out from India and built for India, right? So I think as that becomes a theme, as more companies break out and become successful, it'll kind of it'll make it easier. But I think that is one of the biggest things, to kind of have focus and have kind of self belief in yourself. Other than that, obviously the more generic ones will be around fundraising, around building a good team, around having a great set of early founding team members, and so on. I think doing it alone is impossible for anybody. Like there's no successful entrepreneur who can tell you that they've done it by themselves. And I think it's having, sometimes you can have a great idea, poor timing. So kind of having the capital to sustain that, having partners around the table who will support you and wait through sort of bad times, so to speak. And then having the tenacity, in the whole team, to be able to kind of stay at it, and ultimately things turn around if you're on the right path. So broadly those themes. I'm happy to double click or zoom in on any of those if you think it'll be useful for the listeners.
Sure, Sahil. I think on the funding bit, if you can tell us more about it, especially because from our experience, majority of these startups face a lot of problem in terms of raising capital. So, if you could deep dive more on Shiprocket's funding journey and how did you secure investments? How much effort goes into the entire exercise.
See, I think first of all, the caveat is that in the last 10 years, the funding landscape has completely changed in India, right? So in 2012 versus now, it's a sea of a difference. With like think about Startup India. Startup India came about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and today it's one of the sort of very very well established, well known pillars in the country, where younger companies know that there is a support system, there is something there. The testament is, like today's webinar, like this was not there 10 years ago. So I think a lot has happened, right? A lot has changed in terms of what's available. That being said, the number of companies that are being born out of India has also grown by, like, I don't know how many X, right? So I think it is an important part of building the business, but I don't, again, very early on, I wouldn't encourage one to completely obsess over just that, because it ends up taking away from building sound fundamental models in the very beginning. So the way at least we did that was to continuously focus on having our own cash plan, which meant that regardless of whether external funding came in or not, we always had, Gautam and I, and then later Akshay, Vishesh, all four of us, we always had a plan to say, okay, as we were kind of in the initial days, we always had that 6 month to break even kind of a plan, because we didn't want the company and the whole idea and the ideology rather to go down because we just didn't plan properly, right? Or just because we left it at the fate of some macro event or somebody coming in and giving us a check. So to that point, I think we may have been more conservative compared to other companies, because we kind of wanted to make sure that we could always fall back on our own feet. And that is the way we designed the business, which was, to give an example, we launched the company with some savings of our own, but also with a customer check. So we didn't actually hire the first employee in the company till we booked a customer, right? And we tried to book a large customer, which Gautam and I serviced ourselves in the beginning, because that was the way we were going to get paid, right? The alternative way would have been to build the idea, look for money, then go out and start hiring people. And we didn't do that. We actually hired people because we got a customer. It got our, we were learning much faster and much earlier, rather. And the investment actually is something, the first angel investment actually happened to us, rather than us looking for it. And then obviously, once you bring in the first set of investors or first investor, I think they guide you through the rest of the process, because I think they've, if they've been around and they're an angel or an institution, early institution, and so on, they know the sort of the network, or they'll know five other people. They know how to think about it. They know how to position your model, and they have a very strong vested interest to invest their time and energy with you. So I think getting the first sort of right person in is important, but at the same time, my advice is that, don't bank on it, like don't depend on it. I meet a lot of companies who are saying, in the good times they've raised money, even though they may not have proven the model, which is fine. But I'm saying one needs to continuously go back and retweak and say that, okay, well, if there is no more money, then where am I? Like, how do we get back on our feet, or how do we break even, or how do we become cash flow positive in the next, 6 months, 9 months, and so on? So I think we've always done that, and we do it till date, right? I mean, we've turned profitable in 2019 as a company, but it's a practice that we'll still follow for every new venture or every new initiative that will go out there, saying, okay, well, this is the budget, and if it doesn't break even in X period, then what's the plan? Like, what are we doing about this? So I think that discipline really helps to keep the company, stable, afloat, and keep your priorities straight.
Understood, Sahil. I think that's a very important piece of advice on how one should focus more on the business and product side of things, and having good network of fund. I think angel investors. I think that would essentially help reach out to a wider network of investors. Sahil, could you also tell us if the company is profitable currently? And if so, what are your plans for maintaining or achieving that profitability?
See, I think our shipping business, Nazia, turned profitable in 2019, right? Which was the only business we ran at that point. And since then, that business continues to be profitable, right? Um, what we've done is we've added more layers. We've acquired companies. We've merged them over the last, 2 to 3 years. And obviously, as we add newer segments, they take their own investment cycles before they turn to profitability. At an overall level, we are near break even. Like, we continuously plow back our investments from shipping into, let's say, building our checkout engine, our cross-border engine, our WhatsApp marketing engine, whatever things that we are building new, we incubate them like little startups within the Shiprocket platform. Those take in the investments that we make from the profitable part of the business. So overall, I mean, this is a technical answer, but the reality is, are we profitable? Yes, but we choose to continuously incubate newer ideas because we believe that the depth in the SMB market is so huge, and the need is so large, that it's important for companies like us to invest ahead of time and continuously build that highway on which, things are going to run in the coming 5, 10, 15 years. So it's a revenue slash profit to investment, time mismatch in this kind of a market, where you'll have to build ahead of time. You cannot build it and kind of reap the benefits alongside. And that was true for Shiprocket as well, by the way. Shiprocket was being built for, like, a good 3, 4 years in various forms, either through Cartrocket or through Craftly, and then ultimately as the standalone product. But the insight and the fine tuning and the laying of the foundations, it took a while, because you're trying to actually build digital infrastructure, and that's the nature of platforms like us. It's not a trading platform. It's built in a way where you'll have to lay down the infrastructure, accommodate pretty much every use case that every kind of merchant wants to use, almost like an operating system. And that takes time and investments to go in. So I think, but again, going back to my earlier point, right, we continuously build it in a way to say, look, it's all great and we're shooting for the moon, but we need to be alive to be able to shoot for the moon. And how do we make sure that, we're never depending on external money forever, right? There's always a investment thesis. There's always a plan ABC. There's always the fast case, medium case, slow case, but you have to be able to do all three. So we, staying true to our own philosophy, we continue to be break even, near break even as a company. And going forward, I think the view is very clear that, we want to double down in this market. And we believe that there's a lot of growth here. We believe that as the per capita income, as the GDP grows, as the disposable income of, India grows, there's going to be a lot more consumption, and the consumption is likely to happen from more of the Bharat commerce, the Bharat part of India. And as those newer users come online, newer sellers are going to come online. Tier 2, 3, 4 is going to get more and more attention. There's going to be more commerce. So we try to imagine, like, what will future of e-commerce look like in India, and how can we play a role in that? Starting to think about that today, so that we can lay the rails of it, right? That's the broad thinking.
Got it, Sahil. So, Sahil, help me understand this. So, currently, Shiprocket provides a complete stack of solutions for the merchants and the consumers, right? Starting from shipping to fulfillment,
That's
marketing
right.
tools, as well as customer communication. So, can you
Mhm.
deep dive more on the technological side of things as to what all aspects are being integrated into the system, uh, and what things are mostly pivotal for your business?
Sure. So I think we started by, trying to build the whole stack through an application layer, as we talked about today as well. Cart Rocket also let you build your website, put your products up there, integrate Facebook ads, do some things. But it was built in a very Western way. It was built on a, software subscription style model, where we were billing people for the software, but it was there, like, they had to figure out what to do, how to do, who to pay, are they paying the right amount. So it was built in a way where you said, Dekho, boss, it is not our problem. We are giving you the software. Now you go figure out, right? Because that is the model in the US, and that is the model we were trying to copy, for a lack of a better word, right? But over time, we realized that it's not solving their problem. Like, we're sitting here building all of this technology, uh, but merchants are like, boss, मेरे को समझ में नहीं आ रहा, या ये चल ही नहीं रहा. It's not bringing the business for me, right? So we said that this won't work, and we need to solve for an alternate way. And obviously, the excitement was to go and build the whole thing in the Shiprocket playbook day one. But then we realized it's too much, like, we can't do it. So we narrowed down on shipping as step one, and we said, okay, over 10 years, we should build shipping and scale it. And if we are lucky and we get success, then we'll go around and build the other ones. And then 2 years ago, we started saying, okay, I think we've hit some mass in shipping. We are kind of, God's been kind, and things have been scaling. What is the next most important thing that merchants are struggling with? Merchants came back and told us that, look, I am able to find that I have a higher conversion rate on marketplace platforms like Amazon and so on, but I don't see that conversion on my own website. Which means that, if 100 people land on my product page on Amazon is a placeholder, I get 7 or 8 people to buy. But when I do the same thing on my own Shopify website, for example, I have only one person buying or two people buying, even though the pricing is better on my own website. As we unpacked that sentiment more and more, we started to realize that it was a combination of three or four things, right, which was causing this. One was that the checkout and payment system, they were not sort of smooth. It was not a predictable experience. Sometimes UPI worked, sometimes it didn't work. It was sometimes slower on bad internet connections. Again, things that larger marketplaces have fixed. They've built it in the right way. When you are doing this independently, you don't have this, right? Second thing is trust itself. To say, okay, well, I'm not sure whether, as a consumer, when I'm buying on a younger or a upcoming website, are they going to deliver on time? Are they even going to deliver at all? Is this product being advertised the way it really is going to be received by me? And if I have a problem, who do I reach out to? How can I return it, and so on? So that was the second problem. And the third problem we identified was that a lot of merchants just didn't have the right set of, you know, let's say, team or knowledge or tools to run their retention marketing and acquisition marketing in a proper way. So we identify, and the fact that Amazon, etc., could do same day delivery, next day delivery, these guys couldn't. So we took all of this stuff together, and it was a hard problem. And we said, look, this is hard. How do we kind of break it up? And we took it one by one. We started with warehousing and shipping, because it was closer to the warehousing and fulfillment, closer to the shipping universe. So that became Shiprocket Fulfillment. This was like 2.5, 3 years ago. Today, about 30% of our business gets powered through the warehouses. A lot of newer merchants, especially the first-time e-commerce guys, are jumping on saying that, look, it's a more efficient way to just give you the stuff and then you pack it, pick it, ship it, and so on. And I focus only on running my digital store and not on sort of managing, 2 or 3 people daily to do the packing, things like that, right? So that became the first add-on. Then we got into payments and checkout, which is what helps merchants with a higher conversion rate, right? So we install our checkout. It is, live across 2,000 websites today, where that checkout is kind of branded by Shiprocket and brings in a certain level of trust, and then also optimized for doing, UPI transactions for UPI users, checking fraud on cash on delivery transactions, auto filling your address, and so on, so that you can breeze through that checkout process and not have to penalize the merchant, for a poor conversion. So that's the second big thing. The third thing we did is we started to also help merchants sell cross border in a big way, right? So we're letting them list across different marketplaces, whether it's Amazon, Etsy, eBay, and so on. And then we are able to give them shipping options, which really make it work. Because up until now, either it's very expensive or it's just very, very slow. So we found this like middle path shipping for them, which is making it possible for them to get their goods to the US, for example, in about 8 or 9 days, or to the UK in about 4 or 5 days at a fraction of what they were paying earlier, right? So that's been able to let them take their goods and sell globally to to global buyers. Then we also got into capital about a year ago, where we said, okay, well, merchants need, they need to borrow money to be able to buy goods ahead of time. If their business is inflecting like this and they're a 9-month-old company, no bank is going to give them a loan because they're just 9 months old. So how do you, and there are people, there are NBFCs in the market who are willing to give them the loan, but they don't know how to find those NBFCs. Same problem. So how do we solve this? We solve this by building a engine to connect the right NBFC with the right merchant, pass the information between the two of them, handshake them, and then allow loans to pass through us to the merchant, right? And so on. So I think there are various products, and I can go on and on. But in a nutshell, the point is that whatever merchants need to power their business, we aspire to have them find under the same roof in a way that they know and understand, with the insight that we have about them on how they build and run their businesses. Um, and I think ultimately, the top of the funnel is the hardest part of running any digital business, to attract eyeballs, attract traffic. So it is only natural that we'll gravitate there as a platform as well. So when we talk about our WhatsApp marketing suite, for example, called Engage, that's a big part of how we are helping merchants with either enable, think about click to WhatsApp ads and then straight away shopping in a chat interface on WhatsApp, or helping them run retention marketing strategies in a very simple way. So those are some of the ways we are trying to, really kind of expand and enhance the platform for our merchants.
So, Sahil, basically everything after the checkout is being taken care by Shiprocket for the merchants as well as the consumers, be it from order placement to tracking of the order to the delivering it to the end consumer. And I think
That's
from what I understand, there's a lot of facilitation also that you do for these SMBs.
That's right. So I think, yeah. So everything from the order onwards, and soon even from the point of helping them generate orders, is something you will see come out in the next couple of years. I mean, next year or so from us, in terms of helping them run better ads.
Yeah. Can you also provide some insights into the number of D2C brands that use Shiprocket and how the platform supports their growth?
Yeah. So there's about 150,000 paying customers every quarter, about 200,000 every year, small businesses who use us. And these are made up of a variety of use cases. So there are digital only small entrepreneurs, literally, like if somebody wanted to set up an Instagram store and connect into our platform and just start, maybe posting videos, gaining followers. It's all organic, right? Just completely kind of find a product, do this over a month, they can. There are folks like that who have, who started a business within a month. They might be generating 5 orders a month. Many of them uh, kind of lose the effort after some time, but many of them do become successful and then go on to kind of running their own Shopify stores in the next 1 year. Some grow bigger to then start running their offline stores. So we have a lot of examples, and then some also go into marketplace. So completely omni-channel in 3 to 4 years. We've got some known brands like Mamaearth and Boat and so on. Who use the platform. Many of whom joined the platform when they were tiny, to be honest, and we've grown alongside them. We've got a bunch of offline brands, who run offline stores, but for their digital commerce or their direct commerce part of their sales, they use our platform. And then you've obviously got a bunch of merchants who are trading, who are buying from a wholesaler and then using the direct commerce channel effectively to sell. That's a big part of the platform as well. And we've got about 30,000-40,000 D2C brands. Again, most people, when they hear D2C, they think of the top 50, 100 brands because that's what gets advertised. But the reality is, anybody working in the industry will tell you that there's like a lot more. There's tens of thousands of brands who are trying, who have become, meaningfully big. Some are on their way, some are still struggling in the early days, but so and so on. But there's a lot of stuff happening there where people are able to figure out specific needs of consumers and then build products for them, which a lot of the times the big FMCG companies are just not able, they're not built that way. They're not able to do that, right? So there's going to be a lot. It's a very exciting space because in 10 years there's going to be more money available, there's going to be more consumers available to shop. So I think it's going to keep happening now, whether it's your daily coffee that you drink or your sort of vitamins or whatever, right? You name it, clothes, home, you name the category and you'll find that there's some innovation in the product side happening somewhere. And also goes very well with the whole Make in India kind of thinking that the government is promoting as well. So a very, very exciting part of the audience of our user base, so to speak. But that's not the only thing we do, right? We do work with a variety of segments across offline retailers, digital entrepreneurs, traders, as well as D2C brands.
On that note, Sahil, can you tell us the kind of market trends do you see impacting the logistics and the e-commerce industry in the near future, and how is Shiprocket positioning itself to take advantage of these trends?
See, I think I'll give you some statistics and then that'll kind of paint the picture, at least that we are seeing. Uh, India right now has a retail penetration for internet commerce at about 7% or so. Okay, 7 to 8%. So roughly about $1 trillion of retail uh, out of the $4 trillion of the total economy. Of that 1 trillion, about 80 billion, so 8% maybe, 80 billion is e-commerce, right? Um, Compare this to a country like US, this is about 24%, right? And compare it to China, you'll be surprised. The number is 45%. So the question is that how is China more than the US when they develop later? And therein is where the answer lies, that because they developed later, the US went through first organized retail offline, then started converting online. China actually didn't follow that, right? Because they came, like, internet commerce happened later, consumerism happened later. A lot of the stuff didn't happen offline at all. It just went online straight away. And I have a strong hunch that we'll follow some version of that in India. So there's a lot of headroom here, right? The other important trend in India in general, and this is not true for only retail or commerce, but our disposable or whatever per capita income today is $2,500. It used to be $1,600 4 5 years ago, and this is projected to be $4,000 by 2030. It's not that far away. It's only 5 years away, right? And then it's supposed to be $13,000 by 2040. That's a lot, right? That's a huge change from where we were. So there's going to be all of this new kind of money that people will have to spend, or at the grassroots, folks who are right now consuming only content will start getting into shopping, right? Or getting into consuming goods and services. So any business we do, any as an entrepreneur in the next 10 15 years, you're going to make money. That's my suggestion, is that if you have a itch to get into it, please do it, because India is going to have a huge, like, sort of opportunity, and the whole world is looking at India now, right? Whether it is venture capital or the foreign governments or foreign companies or foreign brands wanting to enter India now, and so on. There's going to be a lot of action in the coming decade. So I think the trends are all very, very positive. Of course, there will be quarters and years that will go up and down, and we should just kind of not look at this from a myopic lens. But if you really put the real numbers out there, there is going to be all of this new commerce and new demand and new retail and new everything, right? So how do you become somebody who takes advantage of that and builds a business around that or finds opportunities in that, and more importantly, help make that happen, right? I think that is the larger excitement and the opportunity here to be part of getting it there, right? As long as you think like that, there is unbound opportunity in India in the next 20 years.
Thanks, Sahil, for throwing light on that. I think this brings a lot of perspective. Sahil, how do you view partnerships in terms of the overall growth for Shiprocket success? Can you highlight some key partnerships and their impact that it had on your business?
See, I think we are a very unique model when it comes to partnerships because our entire company is built on partnerships. If you think about it, the model is that of an operating system, which means that we sit almost as a layer between service providers and between service consumers. And I know it is easy to mistake this for a marketplace, right? It's not a marketplace. It's an operating system where like our users get a series of technology interventions, right, that help them run their daily business, back office, inventory management, invoices, collections, all of everything that they do to run their business. They get the software, but the software alone is not enough, right? You need services along with it. If you're a small business, services like storage and warehousing, services like courier, cross-border courier, listing services, supply chain financing, insurance, WhatsApp, ad, payments, blah, 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 right? So each of these areas, we've gone and created partnerships over the years. So it's a very essential part of how the business model operates. We have over 200 partners spanning from, payment gateways to lending companies, to insurance companies, to tons of courier companies, both local, national, cross-border, specialized, forward, reverse, air, surface, like you name it, right? We've got the whole gamut under our roof, and continuously adding more. Like now, as we focus more on the demand side, we're finding that there are CPaaS companies that we're partnering with. There are digital, chatbot companies we are partnering with. There's obviously Meta and Google that are the big sort of demand channels, and others that we are partnering with. There's OTT platforms that also have demand that again is never accessed by this kind of merchant. To give an example, we've done a pilot, I think 6 months ago during IPL, where we got 25 of our brands to run ads at a fractional cost during IPL because we aggregated them and did a deal with one of the OTT platforms. So there's going to be a lot more like interesting stuff that will come out of this kind of business. But it's pivoted around partnerships, right? Because our model is not to go and build out these services. We don't want to become a demand platform or a courier company. That's not our model, right? Our model is to be able to bring the merchant, give them access to all of these services through our operating system, and then do it in a way which is easy for them to consume and pay and dispute and reconcile and so on, right? So it's I mean, for us, partnerships is everything. That's the whole reason we exist, and that is what makes the business work. And we cherish and value our partners. We take them along with us. We collectively problem solve, and it's a win-win. We create value for the whole ecosystem, and all of us capture a little bit of it, and that's what keeps the company going forward.
All right. So, coming to the overall culture in your organization, how do you approach leadership and the company culture? Are there any specific values that you prioritize within your team?
Yeah, I think we try and uh, like I said earlier in the chat, we ourselves are quite obsessive about our market and segment, and we try and look for that in everybody joining the team. We worry less about skill sets and sort of hefty resumes. When we look for bringing talent inside, and we look more for commitment to the cause, right? We're a little bit of missionaries as a group, and we are looking for people who are inspired by that mission, because ultimately, in our kind of model, it's not about, like people ask us, do you have a lot of competition? And I'm like, not really, because it's not been done before. The competition is with not doing it. That's it. The competition is with the existing incumbent ways, of how people do this, as opposed to having a like one competitor. You know what I'm saying. The dynamics are very different in the business. So you need people around you who are committed to the cause, who understand the pain of the merchant, who understand what it means to build a small business and what it goes through it, and have empathy there. So I think for us, that's the largest filter. So we are obsessed with our customers. We want people in the company who are all obsessed about the customer and obsessed about growing them. That's the largest kind of part of the culture and the leadership here at Shiprocket. Other than that, there's lots of things. We try and we try and be very flat. Try and maintain our agility as we were when we were a young company. We've always been very resourceful and very jugadu as a company when it comes to finding solutions. We want to continue that culture because that's what's allowed us to innovate and get to this point, and that's what will push us forward in the next coming few years as well. So I think having folks who sign up to that then have a great time at the company, because it's a lot of hard work, but it's also very fulfilling, because you are able to crack problems from day zero. Again, everything I mentioned today, whether it's shipping or warehousing or payments in checkout and the WhatsApp stuff, not been done in India before, not the way we've done it, right? It's not been done before in India or anywhere else in the world. So we take pride in the fact that, look, we are solving ground problems. They are having an impact. It's measurable impact, and you can see it. You can see it in the lives of the merchants we power. When we meet them, they tell us that we are having an impact. Like that, for me, is the best feeling in the world, right? So I think everything revolves around that, if you ask me. And then whatever is needed to make that happen, whether it is being more agile, whether it is being more attuned to the customer's needs, whether it is placing the company first, etc., etc. I don't want to go through the list of our values, but I think principally, as long as people align with the objective of the or the mission and the goal of the company, we find that the rest automatically falls in line.
And in your entire almost 10 years of entrepreneurial journey, did you have any mentors who had guided you or helped you navigate through all the, challenges? And if you can throw light on how they have, influenced your journey.
Several mentors, Nazia, and I think it's very important to talk about this because होता क्या है that depending, see, people become entrepreneurs because they are uh, a little bit different, right? They want to jump in and try and change how things are done. And we talked about this a little bit earlier as well, that you have to know who to listen to in what capacity and when. And it's not a science. It's like one has to learn it over time. But not listening to anybody is a bad idea. I'll tell you why. Because there are folks who've gone and done it already, okay, who've been in your seat, who've done this at bigger scales, or who've done it multiple times over and over again. It's very, very important, and they are all willing to help as well, by the way. It's very important for one to be able to be open about learning from them. Typically, the mistake I made very early on was to say, no, no, but they failed, but I won't, and I'm going to do it differently, and I know that I can solve it. And then ultimately, a few years later, I would realize that no, they were right, and I should pay more attention to how other people have done it, because that's the way to learn from other people. Like, why should you have to do all of your learning yourself when there is indeed information available? So I think I draw mentorship from a variety of places, whether it is reading books from, like, or the shareholder letters from Jeff Bezos, or early days of Mark Zuckerberg, or even the older kind of entrepreneurs, who built larger companies in India as well as across the world. Just reading from their learnings, is a big source of inspiration and mentorship. And then they've been some of our investors along the way who've also been operators. They've been really instrumental in shaping our thinking. Kind of helping us think through the large problems, how to frame problems, how to think in a big way about the company, and so on. There have been other entrepreneurs, in the market, in the industry, who have been friends, and they've been very, very kind to give us time and to help us along the way. And then there's also younger companies and our team who also help mentor us, because we end up learning what, let's say, somebody can build in 4 days, and sometimes we'll look back and say that we used to be that and we were not doing that anymore. That's also a form of mentorship, because you end up learning that how do you guys do it. You forget, right? And also team members, as whether it's our peers or our employees. I do think that it's a learning mindset, that one has to develop. And then as long as you do that and you are intentful about it, you'll find that there's mentors available everywhere. You have to just kind of look for them.
And while leading such a fast growing company, how do you maintain work life balance? We'd like to hear that from you as well.
Yeah, I think it's important to carve out roles for yourself early on, or at least focus on areas early on which you enjoy doing, right? And as founders and entrepreneurs, obviously we have to do lots of things. Some we may enjoy, some we may not enjoy, which is where the power of having a co-founder comes in, and having a complementary set of co-founders or early team members comes in, because you can then kind of find other people who enjoy the stuff that you don't, and then build a team where you can focus on what you like. I think the single, again, it's a very trivialized saying, everyone says it, right? Do what you love, etc., etc. But I think it's important, because if you can be true to that saying, you actually don't need to do a lot of work on the work life balance front, because we get stressed about things when either we try to do something that we don't like or enjoy, or we get stressed about outcomes which are not in our control. Which, the second part obviously is more of just mental training, right? You have to just get on that kind of, you have to get tougher about handling that over time. But the first one is where I find, at least, that a lot of times people get stressed because they're bringing home work and they're trying to kind of do things which they don't enjoy. But otherwise, if you're working even 12 hours a day, but it's something that you enjoy, you'll often find that you will not hear anybody complaining about it, or getting burnt out from that, because people find their balance, right? You find your balance with your family, and you have to be flexible. Obviously, you have to put some boundaries. Sometimes you'll kind of overwork yourself, and then you have to take time off, because nothing, you can't keep doing either extreme sustainably. And I think the consistency is more important than the burst, right? That's what I found, that the real that happens is not that I'll put everything I have into this in 30 days and then I'll chill out. It doesn't work like that. You have to be able to do it in balance alongside. So you can have a couple of days that you really kind of push hard, but then take a step back, because it'll also cloud your perspective. It'll start tiring you out, and you won't be able to be as productive. So there's no benefit of that, right? You would rather kind of be at it, obviously, all the time. Pick the areas where you feel you can add most value and you like doing. Automatically, you'll get better at it. And then also kind of focus on consistently delivering that 1% or whatever it is you're working on. That's more important than doing that one shot big thing, and then not having the next thing available, or not having the energy to fire the next bullet, so to speak.
Last question from our side before we move on to the next segment of Q&A from the startups. So Sahil, quickly rechecking with you. Would you have 10 minutes? I think we're slightly overshooting on our time here.
I'm okay.
All right. So, what advice would you give to the aspiring entrepreneurs who are just starting their journey, especially those who are looking to enter the logistics and the e-commerce space?
See, I think I spoke about this a little bit earlier. I think it's a phenomenal space in general, because India will get a lot of digital presence from merchants as well as consumers in the coming 10-15 years. There will be a variety of opportunities where, through the value chain, either in building brands, or building tools to power those brands, or playing a role in either certain parts of the fulfillment value chain, shipping value chain, and so on. So there's a grid that we put up in our office that helps us think about the various things that merchants are going to do. And literally, for each of those cells in that grid, there's opportunities, right, for somebody to go and build businesses. So I think it's a very exciting time, as I mentioned earlier. And I would strongly encourage, if you're a upcoming business on the product side, then definitely figure out ways to distribute digitally, and think about the next 5 years, and not the next 5 months. If you're on the technology side, then again, think about how you can wire up services which are more specific to solving parts of the e-commerce puzzle than the whole thing. Again, those have been our two learnings in a big way. So yeah, it's a great market, and I strongly encourage folks to try and participate in that.
Thank you, Sahil. Before we start with the Q&A, would like to provide a brief context on MAARG platform for entrepreneurs and startups, those who are looking for some mentorship and guidance. MAARG is a Startup India DPIIT initiative, and the idea, it was developed with the idea of making expert mentorship accessible to entrepreneurs and startups in every part of the country, in every corner of the country. So MARG is an AI based virtual platform where startups can identify and connect with verified mentors. This happens through a matchmaking algorithm that helps startups find the right mentor on the basis of the industry, stage, or functional areas, which are selected by the startups themselves. So the mode of engagement through this platform is again in two ways. You can connect with the industry experts one on one, as well as through master classes, group sessions. So there are different cohort programs which are active and live from time and on. If you are part of the MAARG platform, then you would be updated. So how you can essentially use this tool is by using your Startup India credentials and then logging in with the same credentials. In case you are not a registered user at Startup India, then you are encouraged to make your credentials in Startup India and use those same for login into MAARG website. So coming to the questions, we have a question from Jasmeet Singh, who has asked how the market in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities is thriving with the mobility of internet as well.
I think it's only the beginning, just me, and it's a big focus area for us. In fact, one of the reasons we went and partnered with India Post about a year ago was to be able to get access into both pickup and delivery effectiveness in the rural as well as smaller parts of India. The thing is that it's been long coming, right? The reason a lot of people have tried it and then left it is because of timing, and I think timing is a very important piece of this. But it's, if you look at all of the macro factors, right, it's only heading in one direction. I mean, think about it, right? People, like, who are buying in, let's say somebody who's already in a high per capita income bracket today, if their per capita income doubles, it's not like their e-commerce spending is going to double, right? Because they're already buying what they have to buy. It's not like they want to buy double. They may buy more, but they are not going to. It's not going to be linear. But for folks, the 500 million users or so that are only consuming content today, we know that they are digital because they are consuming content. They are just not spending on goods and services yet. So if you fast forward 5-10 years, it's bound to happen, right? There's no question about it, that there's no other place it can go. It's going to happen. Now the model, exactly what will happen, time will tell, but the consumption is going to happen. So it's a very important part, should be an important part of everyone's retail and commerce strategy. And I do think that we will follow China there, where I don't think offline retail will be able to do more than what it is already doing. It's already done. They've been doing it for years. I think the digital medium will take off. I mean, we have today 800 million internet users, something like that, right? So almost like 70% of our population is already on a smartphone, 60-70%. So do things are like five years later, everyone's going to be on a smartphone with data access. So then it's a matter of spending power, matter of building products that appeal to them, and so on. So I would encourage anybody and everybody who is thinking about the future to have an either start there. If you have a insight about that market, then definitely build for that market. But if you don't have a starting point there, but definitely build it into your plans, because it is going to be the future of consumption.
Thank you, Sahil. We have a question from Adilakshmi Thoda. Will Shiprocket get into rural areas to enable agriculture produce to be transported?
So given that we are a platform, Adilakshmi, we already connect into carriers who get into the rural areas. We largely work on parcels because that's the nature of our business, given that we're tied to e-commerce. We do some sort of bulk transport too. Right now, the bulk transport system is not focused on the rural areas, but I think as demand grows in the coming years, given that we are modular, as suppliers for transporting come around, definitely we're going to get them on the platform, and play matchmaking between demand and supply. It's kind of what we do. At the moment, do we do rural bulk transport? Answer is no. At the moment, do we do rural packages and parcels? Answer is yes, because we focus on e-commerce at as a main kind of area.
Can you advise on getting how to get seed funding for startups initially? This is by Satya Sagar.
Satya, I think you should, you should have a proof of concept of your model with some early signs of, revenue and so on, and then there's lots of platforms around for that. I mean, you're viewing this stream on one of those platforms, which is Invest India. There is obviously angel investors out there. There are platforms like AngelList and so on where you can go and connect with those investors. And I think most importantly, like going to events and networking with other entrepreneurs, getting a mentor who's willing to help you in the journey, somebody who's slightly ahead of you, or has recently gone through the same cycle. That's the best way to find the right set of investors and invest seed mentors and seed investors. Other than that, there are again there's a lot of angel networks that are also a great place to mine these kind of sources, whether it's angel network or Mumbai Angels and so on. So there's a plethora of resources if you look online. But I tell everybody that it's a one, you don't need everyone to agree with you, right? You don't need only one person. So you may have to pitch 100 times, but you need only one investor to say yes. You don't need everybody. And secondly, it's very important to not just have an idea without the proof, because if you put yourself in their shoes and somebody told you as a friend saying कि मेरे धंधे पे पैसे लगा दे, your question is going to be that okay, how do I know it works? And as much as I may believe you and trust in you, having early validation, it could be in the form of completely manual validation, that's okay, but having early validation is important.
We have a last question from Darshan Chaudhary. How to find gap in the market?
I think it's a great question, because everybody is, including us, continuously looking for for those opportunities. That's how you can form a big business. I think try and find something which has a personal meaning, right? Don't try and go after a market or a segment which you have no connection about. Try and find something where you have some experience, or your friend has, like, you have to have some into the market to get a better idea, or you may have experienced something, or you may feel passionately about something, right? Saying, okay, why does this not happen, or why is this a problem? And then you have to basically test that, is it a large enough market today or in the future? And you have to look at the competitive landscape, right? Because if something is already being overserved, then it becomes very, very hard for a new incumbent to come and try and solve it. If something is completely unserved, you have to figure out that whether people even want it, or whether it's just something that has not been uncovered yet. So everything has a different way to attack it. But the gaps and opportunities are all around us. If like a more structured way of doing this, I'll talk about consumer products, which is what our merchants deal in. You can use simple keyword research. You can literally go online. There are tools that will help you, like Jungle Scout for Amazon, and then there's others for D2C, where you can look at searches that consumers are doing which are low competition, and that will give you insight into saying, okay, people are looking for XYZ products, or people are looking for Tiranga national t-shirts. I don't know, like there's a bunch of these niches that will come out which may have less supply and more demand, and you can very quickly go and build products, or source products around them and sell. If you're building a tech startup or building something else, it's then you have to do on ground validation, talk to users, try and build a prototype, and check if there's a market fit. But yeah, find something which you understand or have some early understanding of or passion about.
Thank you, Sahil, for addressing these questions from our startups today. We have come towards the end of the session. Thank you, Sahil, again for sharing your incredible journey and valuable insights with us today. Your experiences and your innovative strides you've made with Shiprocket are truly inspiring. I am sure the audience have also gained a wealth of knowledge and inspiration from this session today. To our audience, thank you so much for your participation. We hope this session has provided you with the insights and the motivation for your entrepreneurial journey. Stay connected with us for many more such sessions with industry experts through MAARG program. Once again, thank you, everyone. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Nadia.